see here is a Heathkit model GR-2000 TV. Yep. And associated boxes, RCA picture tube, all the books for it. And it can go two ways. Fortunately, unfortunately, when I bought this at an auction, everything was neatly packaged in all the proper boxes. I had this for a year now, and before I finally got around to it. And by what I mean by my comment is everything was still in pieces like this, but all the boards and chassis were already wired and assembled. I mean, whoever did it did a really good job back in the day, but it was never installed or used. I say unfortunately because I really wanted to build this from scratch, but it's no big deal, just soldering in some components here. So it's not, but I guess I should say fortunately though, that saves me a lot of time. The only thing I had to do is review the work that was done, which appears to be correct. Very well done. However, one thing I am doing is changing the electrolytics that were on there. Green cup were still good or marginally good. Red cup, they were bad. Gone up in value, way too high. ESR good, but so that's what these boards are right here, fresh electrolytics on them. This particular example is manufactured in 1976. A lot of components from 1975. And from what I remember reading, I think they introduced this TV in as early as 1973. And that said, it's very unique in that it has electronic, varactor diode tuning. That's not a big deal there. That's been around, but it also has full on-screen display, and I have the optional clock module, which fortunately wasn't built, and I do get to build that one from scratch. Only thing I am missing is the ultrasonic remote module and controls. So that's where we're at with this at this current point in time. And it's a very well laid out unit. So what I'm going to continue doing now is there's only a few more electrolytics I have to change this guy out right here on the high voltage, and we'll see what the multi-section cans are like on this as well. Well, after looking through the assembly manuals here, I found out where everything is left off. It's all the way up to the point where they attach the power cord right here. Now, the parts that nothing has happened is starting at the tuner, page 257. I already got the twin lead right here, and the other part from the tuner. So I have this assembled, which is easy. Had the little ballon installed in the rear, so that's finished. Hooked up the choke, and in progress of building the vertical output transistor board. I am missing a capacitor in the kit. That's the other thing. I have everything emptied and put in bags so I could look at them, but I'm finding most things. Some things just aren't present. I look through my little ceramic capacitors here. I need a 27 picofarad to jump in here between there and that lead there. Then I can solder that, and that excuse me, will be done, and that'll mount on these two right here. In the meantime, I was also missing the horizontal oscillator and vertical output boards. And I want to give a shout out to Neil Dorfman, fellow TV collector, who helped me out with this by sending me these two boards, which I needed to complete this. And it came out of a working set as far as I know. So I just cleaned them up, and I'm going to put them in here in mine, and that'll be ready to go. As far as I know, after doing inventory on this, that's the only two pieces I was missing. So again, much appreciated for your help. It definitely completes the set, and go from there. All right, now we're starting to get into the sub-chassis assembly, which is basically the control panel right here. Nice heavy chunk of copper here. So we are going to be assembling the controls now, like so. And I do not have the remote control, so that's how I'll be assembling it. Rather quickly, got everything installed per the manual right here. And this is a definition of solid. And everything's held in place with lock washers and everything. I mean, it ain't going anywhere. I mean, yeah, this is went by quick. I just mounting it to the panel. But next, we're gonna mount everything to the front panel. Heathkit and Bell and Howell, because it was a Bell and Howell Schools TV. Interesting, the microphone for the remote control would have gone right here if I had one. So this is the sub-chassis assembled. It's already looking really cool. I kind of got ahead of myself and I already started doing some wiring, but that's as far as I got. But everything else is in place, all potentiometers, switches, etc. This thing is looking so cool. And the whole time I'm working on this, putting these spacers on, it feels like I'm putting together a computer case ready for the motherboard, which in a way it's sort of happening. It's where all the tuner and on-screen logic is going to be. So. Okay, we're at the point where all the individual components like resistors and capacitors are installed on the sub-chassis. Now we're starting to do wiring harnesses. And they got the first one in. Original rubber grommets are still good. They're in bags. So that's the first wiring harness. It's looking good. In my typical fashion, when I get working on something, I keep forgetting to stop and take video, but got the sub-chassis complete. And the optional clock module up there, which I did have to build. It was still in the box, but it's built now. And we'll show this later, but this is like a hold button to synchronize with the on-screen display. Slow and fast time set. This empty space you see right here, if this had the optional remote control module, it would go right here. And this right here, that little blank would be where the microphone went, because it was an ultrasonic remote. But up here, have a push button on off, channel up and down, and I gotta find the nameplate for it. I hope I'm not missing it, but it'll be volume down and recall for the on-screen display, volume up. I love this little logo here. Then I have all the knobs installed. It says on off. This is the master on off that turns off everything, including the clock and standby circuits. Contrast, horizontal, tone, and it says speaker defeat. I'll explain that in a second. Vertical and automatic fine tuning. Speaker defeat will disable the internal speaker. Yeah, there's two jacks. The top one says speaker and the bottom one says hi-fi. Hi-fi meaning you run to, you know, your receiver, amplifier, external to the TV. So it has that option too, the ability to disable the internal speaker. Slide controls. These are blank inserts I had to put in there. If this had the remote control option, there'd be different controls for that, because you could control the color and tint from the remote control, if that was the case. And I kind of kept moving, and I'm already assembling the CRT bezel. Got some foil tape on there per the instructions. And now I'm at the picture tube band part. So really nothing missing there. Just lay out this conductive foil, which is going to connect to the ground strap. So that's where we're at now. So I'll do updates as I proceed. Picture tube straps are now assembled with the felt pads accordingly. You have to bend the straps as shown here. I'm just seating it. So right here, but yep. So now looks like we're in a position to get the picture tube ready. Mint in the box. RCA color picture tube. Glass cathode ray tube. Rare earth phosphors. That's what the inside of the box looks like. Let's see what we have. Yep. Some supplemental information for the picture tube is in here. Looks like that's a duplicate. Just telling you about the implosion protection. Okay. And the packing list. All right. And here's the picture tube. And there, a little dusty, and it's also 1 year newer than the kit, 1977. So I have the kit resting on the front bezel. Let me dust it off. Picture tube is now mounted to the front bezel. So it's on to the next steps. Now we have the degaussing coil routed around it. So now we're going to begin installing the copper shielding around the picture tube. Got this step all done here. Shield leads hooked up and grounded. And now I'm assembling the yoke into its plastic housings. And now the yoke is assembled. So now we're gonna put it on the picture tube. And here it is standing up. And it has a, excuse me, a piece of protective plastic on the front of the CRT, which you'll see typically when you replace a picture tube, yeah, in the box like that. So this will be a once in a lifetime thing right here. I'm gonna peel this thing off. And that's it. Protect the film off a brand new old stock CRT. This is the vertical board I got from Neil Dorfman. Again, thank you so much. And while I was at it, I did change the original electrolytic, which is a 250-100. 351, 100 microfarad higher. If it's supposed to be 250, it should be no higher than, if it's 20%, 50 microfarad, so it's bad. So it seems to be the consensus on this is all these original caps are way off tolerance. But I was also able to finish up this board. Got my 27 picofarad ceramic. I'll install the vertical output transistors. But that said, I jumped ahead again. But you really didn't miss much. It's just more assembly at this point and routing the wires and getting everything lined up. It's everything you saw on the table over there now on the TV. There's copper hinges. Yeah, this TV is going to be very heavy. This is all thick copper. And it wraps around the entire tube. They claim that for shielding. So, yeah, this is what it looks like from the front. Now, the neat thing is, you turn this dial and pull, and this would pull forward out of the TV when it's mounted in a cabinet. Quite reminiscent of a Motorola works in a drawer. And there's the hinge for it, the sled. However, this only contains the tuner and any optional modules and the convergence board for up front. It even has a dot pattern generator. All the main stuff is still in the back, unlike a works in a drawer, but neat nonetheless. And then you just slide it back into place, and it's back in place. And this thing also came with a portable degaussing coil as well. So now the next step I gotta do is mount vertical output board, put that module in place right there. Now here's the horizontal and vertical modules complete. That's installed. Now I just gotta take care of a few remaining capacitors that were bad. And the last thing I did was change the electrolytic filter caps. This smaller one was way bad, way out of tolerance. This one here was borderline, so it was okay, but it was borderline. So this is the recap job for the filter caps, as neatly as I could do it, given the circumstances. And now, so begins the final assembly. And we'll start by pulling this protective cover off. Yay. Well, we're now ready to take the initial voltage readings, make sure everything's in spec. Got a hook to the choke here, and we should be reading about 150 to 160 volts DC. I do not have the Heathkit meter. It's supplied that gives a generic ohms reading, so I just gave everything a once over and made sure everything was correct visually. So I'll unwind this for the first time in about 44 years. Okay guys, this is the very first light on the screen. And as you can see, everything's out of whack, purity, convergence, everything. But it is working. And that's the clock. There's a jumper on the display board to disable. That's only comes off the recall. So there's a jumper that'll leave this on the screen all the time. So what's going on? The first power up we tried, we had no high voltage. And I have been running around all last night trying to find the problem. And I kept thinking, it's like the horizontal oscillator board's not running. But I forgot to check the frequency on it. I merely just I traced all the wires. However, I traced the wiring from the back of the chassis, which looked correct. Turns out the wire that was supposed to be on 10, you see right in the middle of your screen there, pin 10, was on pin 9, which is a blank. But from the back, it's hard to see. It is labeled from the back, but it just didn't look it. Which means pin 10 runs up to this potentiometer with the two orange wires right here. That's your horizontal hold control. It was open, so which means the horizontal oscillator wasn't running, which means the high voltage circuit wasn't turning on, which explains why I wasn't getting any feedback voltage for the high voltage shutdown circuit. I was just running around, and I have also found other problems too. Like my 155 volt line was getting 20 volts. Turns out there was a bent pin inside one of the connectors on the high voltage board. So it was multiple things. This right here is the first image on the screen. So now I have to run through the setup procedure. Okay, right now I'm doing purity on the TV. It took a little bit, but I got a solid red. Because this book wanted me to start off with doing grayscale and everything. It wasn't even hitting the right color. How am I supposed to set it when the red screen control was lighting up green? So I took matters in my own hands and started at purity. Doing convergence now. Did the static convergence in the center, which is damn near perfect. And this is the first pass doing convergence. So obviously I'm gonna go back and do a second pass to get it, try to get it. It's really bad down here in this corner here. But I'm gonna do a second pass on it and see if it'll improve any. I ended up redoing convergence again. As you can see now, it's absolutely perfect from corner to corner. It turns out this diode right here, D659, was installed backwards. Again, another reason why I wanted to build this from scratch. That's what I mean. Unfortunately, the boards are already built. One of the things I was going to do was disable the instant on the picture tube. However, there's a slight issue. Unlike other instant on systems, it uses, there's two transformers, T701 and T702. T702 is used for the standby and all the electronic controls up front, keeps memory. That's what the master on-off switch would turn on or off. And then you have the instant on-off switch right there. The problem is there's no way to modify it because it derives 5 volts from the smaller memory circuits and electronics and 1.3 from the main, 2 separate transformers, and there's no way to derive 6.3 volts without heavily modifying this. I'd have to get like a separate like 120 volt to 6.3 volt transformer and totally cut out this circuit right here to make this work, which I don't have. So I'm gonna leave it alone for now. And just after all said and done, just flip the master on off switch off. All right, never mind changing plans. It turns out I have a 6.3 volt transformer right here. I just took a wild guess. This is something I bought for a project a long time ago. We're talking 18, 19 years ago. It's never really had much use. This is it. Totally disconnect the filament windings from there, and go from there. All right, so the transformer is now installed, like so. No modifications done to the case, and got it wired as such. The brown wires are the actual filament wires, and all it does is it just bypasses the green and yellow wire, or I'm sorry, green and yellow and green wires that were right here, and goes to the transformer instead. The filaments draw 0.9 amps, 900 milliamps when on, and it's 1.2 amp transformer, so it's perfect for it. So little did I know, 19 years later, this transformer would come in handy. So now the instant on circuit has been bypassed. Let's give this a try and see if it works. All right, so right now the master switch is off, so should have nothing. Everything is off. Click this on. Now this is the true test. You shouldn't have any filaments. And we don't. So now, if I hit power, we should be okay. Hell yeah. Get a signal. Color bars. All right, so now let's synchronize the time. Hold, this means hold the clock. It stops counting. I'll press that, watch this. See? Release, it counts again, so I can synchronize it exactly. Fast, see it says S and F, slow and fast. Fast will do this. And let's see, it's 5:38 by the time I'm done here. Then slow does this. Like I'll bump it ahead, hold it on that. I'm gonna wait, I'm looking at my computer. As soon as it hits 18, I'm gonna release. Release. And it's counting. So, there you go. And this is where we're at now. One thing I want to show is the on-screen display. You can adjust the position with these two potentiometers right here, horizontal position and vertical position. As you recall, when I started this set, it was right in the middle of the TV. But look, you can turn this and move it around. I'll put it like right there in the vertical. Of course, you know, you can do that. Up there, and up down there. I'm trying to see right where I want it. right about there. And oddly, it does move up and down just the hair like that while it's displayed. It's weird. Now I have a jumper in there that puts the display on all the time. Now we're gonna pull that jumper out and adjust that knob right there for the on-screen display time. So we'll do that right now. All right, multiple things have happened since the last take. Did the automatic fine-tuning setup, so now that's working correctly. As you can tell, flipping the switch when it's properly tuned will do nothing, but it will keep it tuned in. One of the problems I was having right after that, see how I have that little display jumper and I have it disconnected, and I was mentioning you adjust that potentiometer for the on-screen time. Well, as soon as you pull that out, my on-screen display quit working. Troubleshooting said it could be Q303 or Q302. Turns out Q303 had a bad solder joint. As I mentioned, a lot of these boards are already pre-assembled, so whoever did it didn't put enough solder on, didn't flow it right, etc. So as soon as I did that, that fixed it. Now, when I hit the recall button, I have it on for about 7 seconds. So when you get to change channels, it'll do that as well. And one other thing I could do, there's a jumper in here for, I'm sorry, it's on the clock board for a 12 or 24 hour position, which I'm probably not gonna be able to focus on. There, see it on the left side of the screen? That's another configurable item. Adjusted the horizontal centering, so now everything's centered. Even my grayscale. I want it to have a slight, it's supposed to be around 9300 Kelvin. It went back to a warm temperature, so I tweaked the blue a little bit. So I found once this breaks in, I'll have to go back and do the typical touch-ups. But yeah, just fascinating to see this thing break in as a brand new TV. The next thing to do would be to turn the contrast up just a little bit. Right about there, that should do it. Next thing to do is try to locate the remote control module. Because the interesting thing is, see how it has volume control right there? Right now that is the volume control behind the panel. What the deal is, channel up and down, your two top buttons. This one here is just a recall button for the on-screen display. And right now the right button does nothing. Once the remote control is hooked up, you'll see the blanks, the 4 blanks you see in between the controls will get utilized instead. And the volume control up and down will work. And then the microphone will go there for the ultrasonic remote. So giving it full electronic control for color, tint, volume up and down, channel up and down, and even off. You press off, or I'm sorry, you press down on the remote, and then the TV, once it hits the lowest volume setting, then the next click turns the TV off. So that'll be my next thing. But after that, that's all the options you could get on this set. And I mean, it's working beautifully. This is something I always wanted to do, is build one of these Heathkit TVs. And there might be more in the future. I know there's a model above this that had direct access tuning. It was, I think, the GR-2001, maybe. But as far as I know, this is the older one, 1973 when it started. And it's one of the very early examples of a consumer television with on-screen display. I mean, 1973 this came out. I mean, that's just amazing. I just love pressing the button here and watching it do that. and the colors are really that deep on this set. I mean, brightness, contrast is adjusted exactly, but it just looks that good. I love it. Okay, and now we're playing the tape. This is a pre-recorded tape from Columbia House. So forgive the macrovision lines you see at the top, but otherwise observe everything else.
How'd I do? Father, if that guy doesn't return the 400, he's dead. 92, 93, 94, 95. You've only got 95 script dollars here, fellow. But I'm the generous. Here is a brand new, crisp Yankee $10 bill. Thank you. Gentlemen.
And also, from going through everything, observe the color right in the middle, tint right in the middle, brightness roughly right in the middle, contrast adjusted accordingly, horizontal right in the middle, tone adjusted accordingly, and vertical. This machine does pretty well with VCR time base.
Why can't they just shake hands like everybody else? Au revoir. That G.I. Joe your friend? I only make catering for him. May the seat of his pants turn into scorpion.
And this helps show off the good color.
You know something, Robin? You're taking too many chances.
Chances? You must be joking. That was just a bit of a lark, Little John.
Yeah? Take a look at your hat. That's not a candle on a cake.
Hello. This one almost had my name on it, didn't it? They're getting better, you know. You've got to admit it.
Tone control all the way down.
Yeah, the next time that sheriff will probably have a rope around our necks. Pretty hard to laugh hanging there, Rob.
The sheriff and his whole posse couldn't lift you off the ground. On guard.
Hey, watch it, Rob. That's the only hat I've got.
Oh, come along. You worry too much, old boy.
You know something, Robin? I was just wondering. Are we good guys or bad guys? You know, I mean, are robbing the rich to feed the poor?
Rob? That's a naughty word. We never rob. We just sort of borrow a bit from those who can afford it.
Borrow? Boy, are we in debt.
That sounds like another collection day for the poor, eh, Johnny boy?
Yeah, sweet charity.
And just because, here's some E.T. Yeah, this speaker goes up plenty loud. That's hardly even pushing it. Needs to be in a cabinet though. So, but that will be the next part. Is I do not have the cabinet for this TV. So we're gonna build one, and we're considering we're gonna make it a tabletop set, a big 25-inch tabletop, custom. So, hope you enjoyed this video of the Heathkit model GR-2000 that works perfectly. Thanks for watching, and hit like and subscribe.